I mean, but you take that for your tea, take that for Hattie's tea. Sheep are too stupid. You know, you have to tuck your hernia in before you lift it up. Some people inherit like cattle sheds and tractors and farms, and I've done a deer stalker.
Welcome back. You can't quite tell because we're in a dip here, we're just outside the practice, but it is, maybe you can see over there, a really nice wintry December, dry, crisp Saturday afternoon. I have just been here at the practice this morning, catching up on a few loose ends, but I've got the chance to go and film something I think you guys will enjoy. I'm heading just outside Rothbury to a farm that my colleague Joe lives on and farms with his wife Rachel, and their kids get involved as well. The whole family is good value. They're doing some really cool things I think you guys will enjoy, and it's a fantastic day, so there should be some good shots. We'll learn something, we'll have some fun. Let's get up there. Right, here we are at Westhills. The Henrys are just coming to meet me. I thought I'd film a quick introduction to them. As you can tell, this isn't one of the farms of East Anglia or even the Northumberland coast. There's a fair bit of topography to it. Yeah, Joe and his family moved in here, I think probably about a year and a half ago, could be wrong now. Was actually being farmed on a tenancy basis by a client. They moved on, and the chance came up for Joe and Rachel to buy it, which is fantastic, the sort of thing they've been working towards for many years, while working full-time jobs. Joe as a vet, Rachel as a teacher, while rearing a lovely family, and they got the go of this, and yeah, it's really good to see, and they're doing all sorts of great things, so we'll go and have a look and we'll hear from them about what they're doing, but you can probably just about see what we're looking at today. If you're from the UK and you've seen cattle wintered, the chances are it's been an indoor system. That is, cattle are brought in over the winter into buildings such as barns or sheds. There are several good reasons to do this. Perhaps the most important is not necessarily for the cattle, but instead to keep the ground, the soil on the farm, from becoming too damaged in a wet British winter. That being said, cattle can be outwintered, and there are several benefits to this as well. Outside of the UK, it's far more common to outwinter cattle than to bring them inside. In this case, the Henrys have chosen to grow kale, turnips and Swedes, all brassicas, some being roots, some being leafy greens, and importantly, they are high in energy to keep these young, growing cattle well fed throughout the cold winter. Now, these are grown as part of a rotation, and hopefully we'll be able to slip in just as Joe is starting to talk about their rotation.
Yeah, so basically it's a 5-year rotation. We'll be back in here 5 years, so 4 years we'll be putting herbal lays in, grazing in rotation, making grass silage, and then back into like reseeding like this.
Fantastic, fantastic.
All this kale was much taller before the storm. Right, okay. So Storm Arwen, which we had a video about, that would be what, about 3 weeks ago Yeah,
now?
so you can see how they've all been pushed out and then starting to grow up again.
Right, so although it's been knocked down, it's reasonably resilient.
Yeah, it's done pretty.
It's held its own.
I was really worried the day after the storm, but
but it came back up.
It's sort of come up a bit.
Well, it can stand a bit of a battering.
But it's one of the reasons why we're going a more diverse crop next year, like with the forage rye and the Italian grass, because with diversity, then it makes you a bit more resilient.
As is typical for these forage crops, they are being strip grazed using electric fencing. We're going to do a technical in the very near future about how much of any given forage crop to allocate depending on how frequently you are shifting cattle or sheep. If that sounds of interest and you're not already subscribed to the channel, don't be afraid to click the little subscribe button and ring the little bell next to it to make sure you get notifications about new videos. And if you like this video, of course, don't be afraid to give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment.
And like they'll always lie the next day they'll be lying here on this dry, like it's most dry where they haven't trampled.
Right. And they've always got to have a dry lie. That's the term, isn't it?
Exactly.
So we were just saying, sometimes people's reservations with a system like this is the bare earth, and it's certainly not for farms with really heavy soils, because you can imagine this sort of stuff would just get very, very, very muddy, and it'd be quite on top of everything, be quite unfair for the calves. But you can see on this, I mean, it'd be sandy, pretty sandy here by the looks of things too. So for the calves, they've always got somewhere dry to lie, especially where they've just, you know, the most recently eaten bit. You can see as we walk up them here, they're pretty clean, they're not caked in mud.
And their feet aren't sinking in very far.
Exactly, so if you look at this, we'll zoom in on that calf, or one of these calves, and you can see they're not plodging, they're just walking through it.
Calf in the back.
I know what to say.
It's always
we'll get another one.
Yeah, it's always the way, isn't it? But you see, they are standing up on top of the soil, they're not going into the soil.
Yeah, you can see that there. That's a good one.
And calves are actually easier to outwinter than cows for that reason.
Lighter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And here's another thing we can talk about, Joe. So hopefully you can tell in the video, Joe and Rachel are grazing across a slope rather than up or down. So what's your reasoning for that?
Just the way it's set up with the water troughs, really.
So practicalities.
But you're right, they always say you should graze down the slopes. The problem we've had with that is that on a wet day, all the slop will run into the crop, and so they end up not eating it so well. But it's better for erosion. Probably you don't want to do it on too steep a ground, in fact.
Yeah.
Got plenty of steep fields here, but we're trying, this is a more level one for us.
Yeah.
It's all relative.
So Joe, I'm going to embarrass you now. Obviously, so you work at the practice as well as full time, and you worked in Northumberland for how many years?
23 years.
23, okay. And when did you move up here to Westhills?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, okay. So that'd be pretty exciting, I imagine.
Yes.
Because you'd be renting bits here and there.
Yeah.
Working away and working full time.
So it's nice to be able to do something like this, which when we were all on grazing licenses, our landlords were less keen for us to do this. Yeah. So we think this is a better system than putting them in a shed. I mean, you know, it takes 20 minutes every other day to feed and bed them, and then the in-between day takes sort of 10 minutes just to move the fence. So it's pretty time. There's 40 odd calves in here, so it's a lot of places would take easily as long as that, and then they'd have to muck the shed out at the end.
And they'd have to pay for machinery.
And they'd have to pay for machinery.
And all that, and bringing feed to the cattle. So these are the cattle, just for people, because lots of people won't be aware. So these are mainly Angus crosses?
Yeah, mostly Angus and Hereford crosses, basically, out of Lynn cows. There's 3 out of dairy cows, which are house cows, like that. They've done a lot better than the beef ones. So
on that note, so with the enterprises you've got here, there's plenty going on, isn't there? So you've got the suckler cows. Yeah, so the suckler cows are lings. There's about 40 of them. Heifers go for breeding to other farms as either Angus cross or Simmental cross lings. The bullocks will sell some direct grass fed. You know, they've never had cake. We think's much better for the humans eating the beef. Yes. Then anything else we'll sell to, well, whoever will pay us, really. And you've got 3 dairy cows. We've got 3 dairy cows. It seemed a bit perverse that we had all these ruminants on the farm and we were buying milk. Yeah, and it's funny enough, you've got 3 children as well, so one for each of them to milk. Yeah. One for each of them to milk. So they're quite good coming back from school. We left the calves on the dairy cows, so we just milked them, or they milked them. They came back from school, and every other day they milk the 3 dairy cows. Brilliant. But their calves did fantastically well. There's one there. It's like 420 kilos at weaning, Fantastic, whereas the beef calves, well, I'd say average about 287, I think it was, and the biggest other one was like 330. So the more milk, but those cows got grass pellets every time they got milk. Ah, so the cows are getting a bit more. Yeah, they got the grass Lucerne pellets. So what have you got on the sheep side, I would say? There's about 130 ewes, of which 35 are pedigree Hampshires. The rest are mostly Romneys that we put to Hampshire, but we have got about 20 fine wool, like merino type. And you'll be retailing those fleeces? Yeah, directly to hand spinners. My sister sells those online. And going back to the Hampshires for a quick second, so that's something you started quite a long time ago. Well, relatively. Yeah, 2003. Yeah. And now you sell them direct on, as in breeding tups
Yeah.
for commercial farms.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an on-farm tup sale, and we sell to commercial farms who use them for fat lamb. They're pretty good for a low input system.
Right, exactly. I was about to say, give a little plug there for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So next sale will be the end of August, just before the school holidays finish.
And then you've got heaps of other stuff going on, like you've got the holiday cottage, haven't you, and the hut.
Yeah, and the pod. Yeah.
So there's
which wasn't blown away, which is nice.
Wasn't blown away. There's that be one of the dairies.
Yeah, that's actually a pure, that's a Guernsey cross Holstein. So that's
pure dairy.
Yeah.
You can see it's just a good illustration of how different.
And that's a Hereford cross dairy just behind, actually.
See.
So to show you the difference between a
pure dairy,
and
a Hereford cross.
Yeah, and that's an Angus out of a Belty cross, actually. So we'll have a bit of a zoo on that front.
Brassicas aren't typically fed on their own, and you can see that although calves don't get any Christmas presents, they do get their dinner wrapped. So let's find out what's in these bales. So Joe, what's this?
So this is some of the Lucerne silage. Lucerne being it's Lucerne and Timothy actually, but
and who's Timothy for
Timothy grass? yeah, which is quite a good cool season grass. But basically, Lucerne's like an upright clover. It's a legume. That's its leaves there. It grows really well. I mean, because it's a legume, it fixes its own nitrogen rather than having to buy fertiliser. Yeah. Which at the current £700 a tonne is unsustainable really to grow silage.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before when we've gone and seen, I've put a link to a previous video, we went to Bainbridges and we looked at some of their whole crop, same idea. You've got a legume which I think was vetch and barley, so that again same idea, got a legume which is just like Lucerne, pulling nitrogen down, avoiding the need to buy expensive and environmentally damaging potentially fertiliser.
Yeah, and because this is a multi-cut system, so we grow this Lucerne as a crop just for silage for calves, and we've got some finishing cattle on it. It's a 3-cut system, and so the yield is really good. I think we've got 160 bales, square bales off 9 acres in 3 cuts.
Right, fantastic. So you can see that.
You'd never get that off grass without fertiliser.
No. Here you go, here's a question, Joe. Why don't more people do this? Why aren't people doing it already?
I think soil type counts.
Yeah.
And people haven't really had to. Like, it's lovely today, but there's some days you think, yeah, it'd be nicer sitting in a tractor bedding and stuff. And if you can make it pay, then
why not?
Why not? Exactly.
But that might change in the near future.
Yeah, exactly. With the change in the subsidy system, I think it's as I say, if sheds have to stand on their own feet, it's very hard to justify financially.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's probably different if you've already got one and you've got a farm and it's already shed standing, I suppose. But
exactly,
it's not the situation.
Yeah. So we started with 3 sheep on 16 acres and have built up from there. We're now farming 370 acres, but it's always had to pay for itself. Really.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Something for the new entrants.
If I had to build a shed for these 40 calves, and put all the feed barriers and stuff in, it'd be well over 100 grand.
Right. And how much did it cost to put this field of kale in?
Yeah, about 600 quid. So,
and out of interest, who did that for you?
James Gilroy.
James Gilroy, okay, so they're local.
Sprayed the field off with glycophosphate and direct drilled.
Okay.
So we never plough, partly because we've got so much rock, as you can see. It's very close to the surface, but also we don't have much topsoil. We don't want to invert that, and we don't want to release the carbon. Yeah. And that's one of the things next year, all that bare soil. So we're going to grow more of a TMR next year, rather than just have forage rape, Swedes and kale. We're going to have forage rye, Italian Westerwold, annual clover, and kale and Swedes. And so there'll be less probably yield per acre, but more of a mat.
Okay, so it won't be left for this sort of bare earth
exactly, and the Italian will keep growing, hopefully, we'll see. Whenever it's bare soil, you're missing out on the solar, there's clearly solar nothing going in there, exactly. And without roots in the soil, you're not getting that exudate, and so the soil's more dead.
Absolutely, so heaps of reasons to do something like this. The other reason we're up at this end is because we're looking at it's really exciting, especially for the non-farming viewer, an anti-freeze water trough. So you can imagine these animals still need plenty of water. In a shed you might be slightly more insulated, but out here in sort of the exposed, you need something that's going to supply water to them no matter what the temperature is. So if Joe can talk us through this.
So this basically an insulated trough. I've got another ball to put in, but while we're training them to drink from it, well, we've had it down to minus 15 without freezing. Basically, you have the two balls and the cattle learn to press down on the ball to get at the water. They drink away and that comes back up. And the water pipes up through the middle and it's all insulated. So like it just doesn't freeze, whereas all the farmers amongst you, especially cattle farmers, will have spent many a Christmas frosting pipes trying to get water to cattle.
And out of interest, Joe, would a sheep use that?
No, sheep are too stupid. So there's the trough there. But crucially, the pipe comes up through the middle, surrounded by insulation and then air. No, sheep don't have the power or the intelligence to do that. So in fairness, sheep need a lot less water. You know, carrying a few buckets of sheep isn't a disaster.
No, but trying to feed that for water, 40 calves would be
exactly. They'll be drinking, 20 litres a day or something.
How interesting who makes those? JFC.
JFC,
yeah. A plug as well.
You have to have a concrete base to put them to.
Okay.
This is my concrete, which is why it's already breaking away.
I mean, how much does that water trough cost, Joe?
Well, it is considerably more expensive. So that water trough, these are about 450 quid.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
As opposed to a normal water trough, which will be about 180.
But again, when we're talking about putting new sheds up for 100 grand, it pales in comparison.
Yeah,
that's the whole point, isn't it? Like you can see that. It's not going to wipe out 100 generations of calves.
No, exactly.
Profit.
I mean, the profit to build a shed to put cattle in, I just can't seem to make it pay.
No. So there you have it, not quite Brussels sprouts, but certainly a close cousin. These calves certainly aren't complaining, in fact they seem to be thriving on it. As we discussed, this sort of system won't work for every farm, but will more farms in the UK be doing it in the near future? Time will tell. If you've got any thoughts on it, just leave me a comment, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. It certainly seems to be working on this farm.
Oh, do you want to talk about the ring feeder?
Yeah, we can, yeah, absolutely. So again, finding lots of things to talk about. Forgive me if this is boring, but hopefully you'll like it. Again, probably one for the farmers. So you'll notice these bales are in, so that bale up there you can see is in a, I'll zoom in on it, and we've passed it, is in a metal ring feeder, sort of a conventional ring feeder to allow the calves to get access.
Traditional ring feeders, the metal one up there, I don't know how many kilos they'll be, but they're quite a bit heavier than I am. You have to tuck your hernia in before you lift it up and push it along. It's not so bad in this field because it's quite flat. On a sloping field, it can get away from you. This we have borrowed off Elliot Harrison.
Local legend. We've had it on a video actually.
Yeah. Whose son-in-law made it. So being plastic, it's way lighter than the metal one. And it's also got the spurs on the outside. So it's sort of like a dodecadon, is that the thing?
12, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is 12, or is it 10?
Something like that.
Anyway, so it doesn't run away as easily, but crucially, it's a lot lighter to move around. Rachel doesn't mind doing this one nearly as much. She has had back surgery.
Yes, that we should mention that. One last question, Joe, because people will ask, what's up with the deer stalker? When did you start? Because that's a signature.
Yeah, well, my father's always had a deer stalker, and I guess I've learnt off him.
You've
so there
inherited.
you are. Some people inherit like cattle sheds and tractors and farms, and I've done a deer stalker.
Excellent. Because it stops the rain going down
There's
your
nothing worse than rain dribbling down your neck. You're PDing cows or blood testing cows. It's dribbling. Yeah, stops all that.
Exactly. So there you go. Signature hat. I'm still on the lookout for mine. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Right. I think the sun is setting nearly. It's only what, 3 o'clock?
Yeah, 10 past 3.
10 past 3. It's going to get hugely long days up here in Northumberland in the winter time, but it's only about a week until they start getting longer. So
yeah, looking forward to that.
I've had fun, learned a bit, and this will probably be I might make this a Christmas vlog. It's like the calves having their Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah,
what do calves eat for Christmas? There you go.
Yeah.
God, sometimes I just get taken over by genius. Why am I going this way? If this is the last vlog at Christmas, Merry Christmas, have a happy new year, and I will see you in the new year. Over and out.